Welcome, fans, once again to the Cheap Heat Productions podcast. My name is Jack Kilby, no gimmicks guy. And today I have a really interesting individual who's had an interesting career to interview today. He's been in the business quite some time and has a number of very, very intriguing stories and anecdotes. I'll let him fill in the blanks there, but he is known as the American Giant, Mr. Buck Brezner. Buck, thank you for joining me this afternoon.
You're very welcome, my friend. Thank you for having me.
I guess it's germane to start off with asking you about your early beginnings. I know you grew up in Syracuse, just a couple hours from here, actually, and talked about how in my research that you were inspired after attending a show in the I guess it's early to mid 80s. What was it that really ignited your passion for this business?
Well, first of all, when I was a kid, I used to like watching it with my father. And when I grew up in years, later on in years, I was trying out for the JV basketball squad. I'll share with you here where it is. On the third cut from the basketball team, I got cut, and I was so devastated. And I took those real big garbage cans back in the day. You know what I'm talking about? The real big ones. I shot it against the locker, and my buddy of mine from high school came in and calmed me down. And basically, he said that everybody else found out I got cut, and they were not in agreement with it. So the next day, the wrestling coach comes up to me the next day and says, "I heard you got cut. How would you like to wrestle for me?" I'm like, "Yeah, coach, you're right. You gotta be kidding." I said, "No, no, no, no. I'll tell you what." He goes, "I can help you get the basics because I heard you want to get involved in professional wrestling when you get older." And I looked at him and said, "How did you know that?" He goes, "The word's out on you, buddy." And that's true. And he goes, "I'll tell you a little story about this. There's one guy who I went to Ithaca College with. He works for the World Wrestling Federation back then. Now it's WWE, of course." I gotta say, "Yeah, right. Who is it?" And he says, "No, I'm not kidding you." He goes, "Okay, who are we talking about?" "He's a good friend of mine. He is Gorilla Monsoon." And I said, "You say what? He went to Ithaca?" He goes, "Yeah." Because I'll tell you a little story about Gorilla. When he first started practice, one day he went to practice. He accidentally broke the guy's arm sitting on his arm in practice one day. And shortly after he graduated from Ithaca, he got into the WWF as one of the commentators or started to wrestle or something like that. And I said, "Okay, I'll train. I have no problem with that now." Because the next day he found out I saw Gorilla, snaps his finger. He goes, "Told you." And I'm like, "Wow." That just hit me right then and there. And then shortly after I graduated from high school, I got a letter one time. A friend of mine who I grew up with knew Mike Rotundo and his family. And got a letter from Mike, and he told me to go check out a guy in Buffalo by the name of the Destroyer, Dick Beyer. I said, "Okay." I called him. I called Dick. He just got out of the business. Dick told me one day, he says, "I'm going to refer you to a guy in Tampa, Florida." He says, "You ever heard a guy by the name of the great Malenko, Boris Malenko?" I said, "No, I never heard of him." He says, "Well, you know Gordon Soley, all them." "Yeah, I know Gordon Soley, who he is." He goes, "You'll be getting a phone call from Malenko in a couple of days." Sure enough, I did. He brought me down and I started training. And right down there, my heart was on fire at that point, and that was it. It took off after that.
Yeah, that I read that you were trained by Boris and Dean, and wanted to ask you, how did I mean, you couldn't have had a better fundamental groundwork laid for you. I wanted to ask how they trained you in that old school way, and how they shaped your approach to wrestling as obviously a giant at 7'4" and a powerhouse. How did that experience really shape and mold you going into the business?
Well, Boris asked me to do a lot of basic moves, just like everybody else. Some I was able to do, a lot of it I wasn't because of my size. And so he basically taught me different things, standing up wise. And one day he had me work with Glenn Jacobs, came from the WWE at the camp. He was at the camp at the time. And Glenn taught me a lot of things like a big man. And believe me, if it wasn't for Glenn, I would never know what I was going to do. But one day at the sportatorium, I went up to the top rope, and obviously my head hit the top of the roof because the building was so small. Dropped the elbow, and the promoter comes up to me. He goes, "If I ever catch you going on the top rope again, I'm going to fire your butt right on the spot." Yes, sir. And he goes, "I want you as a big man. You wrestle as a big man." And believe me, ever since then, ever since working with Glenn and all the top big guys, it's much easier for me. And people think today I'm a technical. I am not a technical. That's simple.
Does that's an interesting point, Buck. I was going to bring up later, but we might as well now because it's sort of you've sort of segued into it. Does it frustrate you in recent years when coming from that old school foundation that you see some really big guys? Not that there are many giants left active anymore, but so for example, when you saw like big guys not wrestling like big men and bumping all over the place for little guys and trying to do acrobatic moves. Like the loss of psychology as a big man yourself must be very frustrating.
It's very frustrating, yes. And there's a lot of small guys today who don't even know how to wrestle a giant today versus the old school. And one thing that really gets me is, I'm having a hard time getting booked because of my size. And the promoters, they bring in, different talent. There's a lot of good talent out there. But I'm looking at the promoters because, number one, these guys do not know how to wrestle a big guy. And it's harder on me for getting booked. And every time I do get booked, it's time to go to old school. It's that simple. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and take bumps and all this and that when I don't have to, when I shouldn't have to. The great Malenko never taught me to do that. He told me to use my size to my advantage. It's that simple. And
Mm-hmm.
ever since then, I learned from watching old tapes on like Andre the Giant, John Studd, Hogan, you name them all. You learn from them all. And here I am 32 years later into the business. I'm still learning a lot of things about the business, different things every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
So you're saying you have a hard time because of your size being booked because the guys are so much smaller. Do they not know what an attraction is and how to utilize that?
I've heard rumors they do. I've heard the rumors they don't. I heard rumors they don't give a damn. Excuse my language.
No problem.
They're all out for themselves. They do their own matches. They could care less about working a giant. But I promise you this, brother. If they ever step in the ring with me, I promise you, I will give them a serious receipt to wake up. Hey, you can wrestle a giant. That's
Mm-hmm.
simple.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sit there and stoop down to their level. I'm going to do what Boris Malenko and the Malenko brothers taught me to do,
Mm-hmm.
and learn. Just keep on going from there. I'm willing to learn different things, but out of respect, the small guys need to respect the giants even more.
Yeah, the psychology of David and Goliath seems to write itself, but we've again moved away from a lot of psychology. Aside from your incredible legit height and weight, how did you come up with the American Giant gimmick, and what does your larger than life persona mean to you, both inside and outside the ring?
I'm glad you asked me that. I used to go under the name the 7 Foot Sasquatch when I first started with the NWA back in the Sportatorium days. A good friend of mine who has passed away now, Hurricane Bob Hamill, he worked as one of the Doink the Clowns in the WWE way back in the day. And Bob called me over to his house one day, and he asked me, he goes, "Is there something on your mind?" I said, "Yeah, I want to change gimmicks, and I want to represent the United States of America." So we both sit there pondering on it. He goes, I got an idea. Why don't we call you the 7'3" American Giant? And he goes, okay. I said, that's a good idea. Because I'm going to tell you what. People ask me this all the time. There's 3 reasons why they call me the American Giant. Number 1, I'm 7'3". 2, I'm an American. And 3, I'm a giant in heart, not giant in size necessarily. There's only one true giant in the history of professional wrestling, and that's Andre the Giant. That's it. My giant, I call myself the American Giant because I have a giant in heart to step into the ring with the top contenders, medium contenders, whatever the case is. I don't care if it's independent, AEW, WWE. You got to have a heart to step in there and do the best you can and represent the business.
Yeah, that's a very, very positive mindset for sure.
And that's where I'm at with it. And people are like, "Well, he's delusional." No, I'm not delusional, guys. If you look back, and if you're not trained by the best in the business, you're not going to get anywhere further until you do it right. You know, there's other schools that I'm in contact with all the time. I'm good friends with the boogeyman Jimmy Valiant. He also does the same thing like Malenko does. He's old school, love him dearly, love him like a brother, and he's got a lot of good talent up there who can learn, who can go places. And if they don't, it's not going to work out for them. That's all I can say.
Speaking of giants, I remember distinctly your match, of course, that a lot of people saw back in the day and talk about, and that's your notable encounter with the Outsiders in WCW. In that I guess it was sold out in the empty arena in '96.
Correct, November of '96.
Yes. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. First, how did WCW get you on their radar? And secondly, how did this match get put together? Because that's quite a deal for you to be in the ring with the hottest superstars in the business at the time.
Well, one of the bookers came up to me. I arrived at the afternoon. I went to the arena just to say, how are you, and get out of there. One of the promoters came up to me and goes, Buck, would you be willing to team up with Pistol Pez Wally to wrestle Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, the Outsiders, for the WCW World Tag Belts? I said, sure, not a problem. And he says, okay. Prez's partner could not make it. That was the late Navy SEAL, Leroy Sanders, late Navy SEAL. God bless his soul. I said, yeah. I said, I'm staying at the Holiday Inn across the bay, whatever, because my house was underfloor at the time. And I was called into the booker's office, second booker's office, rather. The late Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, he was the road agent. He asked me if I was in good shape. I said, yeah. And he says, okay, go get your gear. And you're going to be going on Nitro within the hour and a half. I said, no problem. So I got my gear, and I got to admit, I was nervous about this at first because stepping in the ring with Hall and Nash, that's a different situation here. And I talked to a couple of the guys about it before. He goes, all you got to do is just go in there, do the best you can, do what they tell you to do, and that's it. And here's the thing that I loved about it: getting the experience. Whether you win the match or lose the match, it's the experience and the opportunity to go out there and do the job. It's that simple. And after that, they said I did a great job with it, and it went off after that. And I even got a compliments from Arn Anderson about it. You did a great job. Eric Bischoff came up to me and said, "Good job." And it went over pretty well, even though I got my butt beat by Hall and Nash. But they said you look strong and you did pretty well with it. And I said, "Thank you, sir." And that was it. And I enjoyed it. It's the experience that I'm at.
Did you did you go over what you guys were going to do beforehand, and how did you find them to deal with when you're setting the matchup, or did you guys go in and call it in the ring?
Well, basically, all I had to do is stay on the outside, and when Pez tagged me in, Scott gave me the beat down, and all of a sudden, Nash gave me this. They said just just follow what we tell you to do. That was it. And Nash booted me. He dropped the side slam on me. Did the 3 count and then the 5 count like Bundy did. Yeah, that was that. I mean, I just followed what they don't wanted me to do. It was simple and easy.
Now, after that, because obviously you're, an attraction, and they had enough confidence in you to put you on again the hottest TV show with the hottest superstars in the business. Did you were you expecting, or did you feel out any additional opportunities with WCW, or did you ever get any feelers from WWF at the time?
No, not the WWF. There's a lot of WWF is a different story. I had a real bad run-in with Vince McMahon, and McMahon treated me very rudely, so to speak. At the point, all I offered to do is wrestle for the company. If he ever needed more talent, McMahon slapped my hand away. He says, "Get the f away from me. We don't deal with jabronis like you." I'm like, "Whoa, okay." I was just trying to help out. And a little while later, I was approached by George the Animal Steel and Chief Jay Strongbow, and they asked me, "Did you go to Vince? Rumor has it you went to Vince." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I was just trying to, be an asset." Guy said, "Brother, do not go to Vince. Come to us. We're the bookers." And apparently there was issues going on. A lot of the boys they had back then, Hogan, Savage, Hart, whoever it was, all decided to depart and went to WCW shortly after that. I mean, I was like, wow. And the thing about it is, it got back to Boris about it, and Malenko taught me, not taught me, told me, take your time, learn more about the business. Don't ever go to Vince. He could be a pain in the blankety blank. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, Eric Bischoff and Arn Anderson treated me much better than Vince did, and I hate to say that, but it's true.
Can you before we talk about more about WCW, can you set the stage as to where you backstage at an event? How did this occur? Because I would think Vince, being a guy who appreciated giants, I thought you would be a shoe in there. So how did you come across him in the first place?
Well, I was in the back of the area talking to a couple of the referees, and I was talking to the Beverly brothers at the point. And Vince came in with Pat Patterson driving back. They both got out of the vehicle, and I was like, okay. I went up to Vince, and Vince was very nice to me at first. Shook his hand, and I said, "Vince, if you ever need another worker to, help out with your program, we'd be more than happy to help you out." Slaps his hand away from me. That was it. Like I said, he was very rude. And the security of that place said, "If you do not leave the premises, we will have you arrested for trespassing." I said, "Well," I said, "Okay. If I could, so you know where the sportatorium is on Albany Avenue, right?" He goes, "Yeah." "If I catch you guys there, I'll have my security team throw you out. Do not disrespect the guys. We're all here as a family, and that's all there is to it. Don't be rude to the boys. It's not worth it."
Wow.
So
Well,
yeah.
I'm shocked, because in all the hundreds of individuals that I've had the pleasure of interviewing that have met and talked to Vince, he's never behaved like that. Maybe it was a bad day or something like that.
It could very well be, but like I said, it may be a bad day, maybe a whatever type of day, but he gave me a very nasty look that day, and he did that to a couple of other boys, a couple of other wrestlers that I know pretty well. And don't it's like they say, don't trust nobody in the business, no matter who they are. And if it works out, fine. If it doesn't, let it go. And that's what I did. I let it go. Did just continue on.
So jumping back, sorry, to WCW, I'm interested because you had you did what you needed to do. Obviously, they could have done something with you. Did you get any follow up, or
Not,
what were they looking at there?
not once at all. Basically, they just wanted me the job for Hall and Nash. That was it. I even inquired a couple of the guys about it, and as a matter of fact, I inquired I inquired with the Nasty Boys about it, and they became good friends of mine after 30 years after I met them back in December 1990 when they were working for Vince. And Knobs comes up to me one day. He goes, "Just use your size, just learn, and just learn what you're being taught. It's that simple." And I
Mm,
just continue to listen to them, and they give me great advice. I mean, God bless his soul, man. I mean, Knobs is a great guy. Sags is a nice guy too, great guy. And he said, just pay attention to what you're learning to do, and just do the best you can. It's just that
mm.
simple.
I
But
know you've talked about in previous interviews about your life on the road, and I wanted to ask you about a couple aspects of that.
mhm.
One being, man, what are some of the? I mean, traveling's hard on everybody. I can imagine as a 7 foot 350 plus pound performer that's got to be difficult on you. How do you cope with that? And do you have any most memorable moments for any of your time on the road?
Well, it's, it's a lot of rest in between. You know, there were times where I would do two matches in one day. There were times I would do three matches in one day. It depends what the organization needed. And mainly, you got to have your rest. That's the key. That's the key thing about it. And once you have your rest, you feel refreshed, ready to go again. Have a lot of great times on the road. And one thing that I've learned, what Dusty Rhodes used to say: if you don't put your time in, if you don't sacrifice to do, you're not going to make it. And there's one time I had a match in Dalton, Alabama for Continental Championship Wrestling. Cowboy Dennis Gale owned that, or was the promoter rather. Sorry, and it was a big fan fest. And I had to run to the ring with Road Warrior Animal since Hawk passed away. And Hawk, an animal, just hit the ring, did what he did to do. I stood on the outside. And after that was over with, I was sitting there getting undressed, and I was talking to Jerry Lawler about this. He looked at me, he goes, "How often do you wrestle?" I said, "About 3 or 4 times a month." He goes, "Man," he goes, "I'll tell you what." He goes, "You put a lot of time on the road." He goes, "God bless you." He said, "That's dedication right there." So Jerry Lawler complimented me big time on that. He goes, "You represent the independent scene very well, and
Mm,
if you don't lead, how's other people going to learn the right way instead of learning the wrong way?"
mm, mm.
I try
One
to
of
do it the right way.
Yeah, no doubt. I've read that. That seems to be a consistent theme in your career. One of the fans on social media asked, and we always get this question. I enjoy it, so I ask it every time. Were you? I know the boys on the road like to cut up and ease some of the pressure by ribbing each
Oh
other.
yeah.
Have you ever been a subject or engineered any good ribs of your own?
Yes, I have many times. Here's a good one. Before I broke into business, I went to a house show with the WWF back at the time. One night we all got together. I got together with Undertaker, the Iron Sheik, and the Nasty Boys. We all sat in the quiet area of the restaurant, and the Iron Sheik was on my right side, the Undertaker was on my left, and Knobs and Segs were right in front of me. Undertaker comes up to me, he goes, "Big guy, come here. Go tell the Iron Sheik you're going to stretch him from here back to Iran." See what he said. I said, "I'm not going to tell him that. I'm not. That's being disrespectful." "No, he'll love the rib. He'll." I said, "Hey, Sheiky baby." He goes, "What's up?" "I'm going to stretch you from here back to Iran, you Iranian freak." He looks at me, drops his spoon, puts me in the headlock. Knobs is sitting there hitting me across the head. No, he said, now you sit there, you behave yourself. Who told you to tell me that? Because somebody told you that, because that didn't come from you. I pointed at the Undertaker. I did not tell you to tell him that. That's a good way of getting stretched, you big goof. I was like, oh my word. And I got it that night. They ribbed me on that one. Now, a little while later, now this gets more interesting. We all went back to the Holiday Inn. This one little kid decides to go up the top of the dresser. He pretends he was Superfly Snuka. Tries to jump on me. I lost my balance and I sat on the Undertaker's hat that he wears to the ring.
Oh no.
Undertaker looked at me. He goes, big guy, you squashed my hat. I popped it back out, threw it back at him. I said, that's what you get for telling me the iron shit. They're gonna stretch you. He said, you got what you got coming back to you, brother. He shakes his head. He goes, unbelievable. Get this big goof out of here, ribbon wise. I said, I gotta go anyways. See you guys next time.
That's called a receipt, isn't it?
Oh yeah, pretty much. And I'll never forget that night. I was going to college at the time. This is about a year and a half before I went to Boris's camp, and we all had a great time. Knobs is sitting there. He goes, "You big goof." He goes, "What's the matter with you?"
Yeah, they were quite the humorous guys by reputation too. I wanted to ask you though. You've shared in some of your other interviews, that obviously being such a large individual, way beyond the average male and big, even amongst tall people. You said that you had some early struggles in terms of being bullied for your height and frame, and you found an outlet in wrestling. I wanted to know how this resilience that you developed influenced your career and all the adversity that one encounters in the business.
Well, when I was a kid, back in the middle school and the junior high level, I was bullied quite a bit. I was a real skinny kid back then, 6'3", 6'4", weighed 100, I would guess 75, 80 pounds at the time. I was picked on all the time, and a lot of people would make fun of my height. There were kids in there who would spray perfume in my eyeballs at one point, and I've had enough. So a buddy of mine from high school, God bless him, I've known him for 40 years. 2 or 3 of them came along. We're gonna get you into sports. I said okay. So I started playing basketball, and there was one when I got to high school, my sophomore year. One of the guys who went to Syracuse University with Mike Rotundo, he played professional football for the Cowboys and the Giants. They called him Iron Man Bill Pendock. Bill took me to the gym, and he says, how would you like to learn some good things? He said, come on in, let's start training hard. And with the more several months and years I started training hard in the gym, I felt different. I felt more powerful. I felt more different about myself. I could be intimidating one day. And before you know it, there are kids, in the high school level try to be intimidating towards me. I wouldn't put up with it. And I would not tolerate it, push them against the locker. And they're like, whoa. I said, do not come and intimidate me ever again. Because if you do, we're going to have a match. I'll get you in that gym right now on the mat, and I will wrestle you. And they're like, wow. Yeah, and that's where I started wrestling in high school, shortly after the basketball incident. And ever since then, my life has changed with the sport of wrestling. And
Awesome.
that's where it is. But before, like I said, I was bullied just like anybody else was. There's a lot of history on that. But ever since I became a professional athlete, brother, I tell you what, it makes me want to go.
Yeah, well, I still would find it hard to. I guess kids are kids, but bullying somebody of your height and size, that doesn't seem like a good idea. Now, as you've touched on before, you've wrestled all over the place. You've been a standout on the independent circuit. Is there, over your 30-year career, is there a particular match or moment that stands out to you in your mind as being particularly memorable?
Yes, there's two matches, as a matter of fact. One, when I was wrestling in Florida, I held the organization. I held the heavyweight title called the WPWF out of Newport Richey, Florida, and I got a call one day, asked if I would want to put the title on the line against the genius Lanny Poffo.
Mm.
Lanny just left. He just left the WWE. Apparently, his contract was up or something. Lanny and I had a great scientific match, and ended by disqualification. Lanny didn't know about it. He goes, "I don't mind winning the match, but Sasquatch is still the champion." So it was reversed. The title came back to me, and Lanny and I tagged up the following month with his dad, the legendary Angelo Poffo, in our corner. We beat the other two opponents. I gave him the big boot, tagged Lanny in. He did his flip off the top rope. Got the victor. That was one. Number two, most memorable, USA versus Cuba. My match with the Cuban Assassin. The Cuban Assassin, a phenomenal athlete, great athlete, and he comes out of Havana, Cuba, and
Is that
he's a
Fidel Sierra
Fidel
you're talking
Sierra.
about?
Yes, Fidel Sierra.
Sorry to interrupt.
Um, I much respect for the Fidel Sierra. Great, like I say, I respect him as a great wrestler. The only problem I have with that is his cheating. If I see any cheating inside the ring, I'm going to stop it to the best I can. And just like I tell everybody else today, just like the great late Superfly Snooker say, you got to have respect for each and every individual professional wrestlers. And my job in the ring is to wrestle and lead by example. If there's any cheating going on, I promise you, I'm going to try to stop it the best I can. I won't put up with cheating. No. Nope.
And how did that match turn out in the end?
In the end, there are a couple of times where I won by disqualification. His manager, Fantasy, decided to throw the powder to the Cuban. The referee told her to get down on the floor. Cuban shot the powder in my eyes. That was it. That was one. I was pile driven by another time at the Sportatorium. He got the cheap victor on that one. And there was a time where I would choke the hell out of the Cuban. And the referee, WWE Hall of Famer, ECW Hall of Famer Bill Alfonso, refereed that match that night. He disqualified me for not breaking the chokehold. And I started to cheat on the really let them have it, and it stand out pretty well because a lot of the fans in there were shouting USA, USA, USA. But yeah, it ended up that way on several occasions.
Sounds like you have some unfinished business with him, and I know he's still active to a point as well. So who knows? But in terms of dream matchups, either past or present, because I know you're still at it. Who maybe a couple of those type of ultimate matches that you wish you could have had or still would have?
I would like to wrestle Andre the Giant. Even though it's the experience that I'm after. Whether I beat Andre or not, that's a different ballgame there. I just do the best I can, wrestle Andre. He was one of them, or John Studd, or King Kong Bundy. And there's another one who I would love to wrestle. That was the great Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig.
Mm.
Kurt Hennig was one of the greatest technical wrestlers in the business. I enjoyed watching him. I enjoyed, he was a great technician. There's a lot of great technicians, but I would have loved to wrestle Kurt and just do the best I can with him too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You just
well, that would have been something.
Yeah, it would have been. And like I said, even though I'm 55 years old today and 32 years in the business, you never know where this could lead. It could lead to the WWE, AEW. You just don't know. And
yeah, absolutely.
Like I said, you never know. If I get a phone call tomorrow, say you want to work for the WWE, let's talk. I'm all for it. Let's talk and see if we can negotiate. That's all I can say.
Well, and I hate to, run back to the same point, but there's not a lot of giants out there in the
All the
business, and
time.
I'm sure if used properly and as an attraction, any of those rosters would benefit. But speaking of the WWE, um,
Hmm.
with the sale and the amalgamation of WWE and UFC into the new entity, there's a lot of talk online from fans about the exorbitant ticket prices, and they seem to not exactly be fan friendly the way that they were under Vince McMahon. So the commentators talk about. Do you think that this is an opening for, and sorry, I almost forgot the other part, the fact that they've virtually eliminated house shows from the market? Do you think this is a good opportunity for independents to get even stronger? And what do you think can be done to get fans out? When you're paying 15, 20, $25 for a ticket, it's different than 14,000. What do you think can be done to capitalize on this situation? Because I know you have
I
thoughts.
I think that if you bring back the old school, the way it used to be, where the matches were going strong versus today, you put more butts in seats. And
Mhm.
like I said, the new talent today, like I said, there's nothing wrong with the new talent today. There's a lot of great ones out there. It's how the promoters are handling the situation. And I don't agree with a lot of it because number one, you don't need to charge $1,400 for a front row ticket like at WrestleMania. That's ridiculous. When we were growing up, they used to charge what, 25, $30? That's totally different.
Mhm.
People want to see old school now old school slash new school psychological matches. If they don't see that, you just can't go in there and go bump 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 and flip flop and not tell a story. It doesn't work that way. That's what they're trying to do today. Now, back then, if they try to put it back then into today, I can guarantee you more butts will be put in seats if they do it right. And I'm trying to get a match back in Syracuse, and I tell them if you bring me up to Syracuse, I can guarantee you I can put butts in seats as long as it's done right. If it's not done right, not promoted right, you're going to lose money, and they're not going to come out and see you. You have to promote the matches correct.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you're saying as a promoter myself. It seems to be that there's such a gulf between what WWE and even AEW is and the old school class. I believe some will argue, but I believe there's still a market for old school classic pro wrestling, like you're talking about.
a lot of people think that, a lot of them don't. It depends on a matter of opinion. My opinion is old school. I'm old school. That's how Boris Malenko, Joe Malenko, and Dean Malenko taught me. I'm old school. That's
You're
simple.
you're beyond wrestling. I noted that you have a lot of experience and reach a lot of people through motivational speaking, and I wanted to know how you translate your experiences as the American Giant, the adversity that you've gone through and overcome to inspire others outside the ring.
Outside the ring, I'm glad you brought that point up. There's a lot of kids today who will pretend they're wrestlers outside the ring. They will wrestle in their backyard. They will try to make fake rings or anything like that. I would tell them, don't, do not do that. And I'll tell you why. Number one, somebody's going to get hurt. Or number two, somebody's going to get killed. I'm not being delusional like people say I am. If you're not trained by a professional trainer, what the hell are you trying to do? Just because you see guys like Randy Orton or Stone Cold Steve Austin do what's in the ring, guys, wake up, man. Those guys were trained professionals. especially backyarders. And if any backyarder try to want me to wrestle them, which I happened once, they wanted me to lose to a backyarder. I denied it right on the spot. I said no. Number one, you are not properly trained. Number two, I am not going to risk myself to go in there and get hurt by somebody who wants to act, I hate to say that, act stupid. If you want to become a professional wrestler, get trained the right way. Now, on the outside, this can lead to bullying. And I'll give you another example. I was living in Florida at the time, and I was in Denny's one day. I saw these three kids walking in, goofing around, after school type thing. I didn't think anything about it. They came out of the restaurant. Two of them were pounding on this one kid inside the restaurant. I looked at it. That fired me up. I said, oh, hell no. Excuse my language. Pushed the table back, followed them outside. And I said, hey, break it up. I went into the American Giant serious gimmick. When I'm serious about bullying, I will not tolerate bullying. Now, what are you two kids doing beating up on this one kid? They didn't answer me. I'm going to tell you one thing. You either walk away, go in peace, or else I will call law enforcement and have you taken to juvenile. You are not going to walk into public places. This is a place of peace, not torment. They walked away. The other kid, I checked on him. Are you hurt? Can I call a paramedic? Whatever. He was fine. He thanked me. And I said, okay, go home, tell your parents what happened. And if you ever need anything, you tell them to get a hold of me personally. He turns around, gives me a quick look. Can I ask you an honest question? I said, sure. Are you the American Giant? I said, yes, I am. Thank you for helping me. You're welcome. Go in peace. And I came back in, and the staff and the managers, they were very, very appreciative. I said, folks, this is where I'm at with this. I do not put up with bullying. And if I ever see anything like this happen, I promise you, I will intercede to it real quick and break it up. And that's what really put inside here. Today, I offer to go to schools, recreation centers, talk to kids, teenagers, even adults about the subject of bullying. I posted it on Facebook. I'm a very motivational speaker on that, due to my experience. I have not heard one response yet, except for a couple of times. My offer still stands. If you want a guest speaker, call on me. And I also comment on one of the guys who used to work for the WWE, the Wild Man, Mark Merrill. His champions, he does the same thing. God bless him. I've known Mark for a long time, and he's doing a great job. I stand behind him all the way. In the meantime, while he's on one place, who's covering another? I'm willing to cover the other, but the thing about it is, are they willing to step forth and bring me in?
Well, you know what? You definitely have you can capture a crowd's attention for sure, and you definitely have a story to tell. So if there are any organizations out there that are seeing this, we'll make sure we have Buck's social media attached to this. But I wanted to ask you before we wrap up, and this is an important question. You've been in, as you've noted 30 years in wrestling. So it's a two-part question. What do you hope to leave behind in terms of a legacy as the American Giant? And what's next for you, do you think? What goals do you have in the wrestling business?
My goal is to continue wrestling all over, to get more bookings. I would like to work for major organizations. Whether people say that it's impossible to go to WWE, that may be so, but I'm going to tell you straightforward, you never know what can happen. If the WWE gets a hold of me, I'm more than willing to sit down and say, hey, let's talk about this. Or AEW or what's it, TNA, whichever. I've been around a long time. I have a lot to give. I have a lot to offer. Here's the question: Are they willing to book me? That's the question.
Well, like I said, giants are in short supply.
That's right. You bet.
Mm.
And to leave behind, I want the kids to understand that you can do anything in life that God gives you a gift in life. Whether you're a professional wrestler, boxer, musician, something simple. Use that talent to use it right, to help other people. Mine happens to be the calling of professional wrestling, and I enjoy it every day. And I'll continue to go until the time, and once I'm done, I'll still continue to teach them along the way.
That's awesome, Buck. Where can the fans find you on the social media platforms or anywhere else that they can see what you're up to and contact you?
I have the American Giant Buck Brezner fan page that my manager, Miss Americana, has made up for me. Plus, you got my personal page, the American Giant Buck Brezner, as well. I personally talk about what's going on with me on a daily basis as things happen every day. And they're welcome to message me for a booking. They're welcome to message me to a booking to a motivational speaking. I'm all up for it. Because these kids today, how are they going to know unless somebody steps up to the plate and say, "Hey, this is the deal." It's not let's make a deal. This is the deal. I'm going to express to them as Boris Malenko and Joe and Dean Malenko taught me. I want to share it with them. That's my goal. Here's the question: Are they willing to listen?
Well,
the rest is up to them.
Only time will tell. And Buck, this has really been a pleasure. I want to encourage all the fans to check you out, and please keep in touch. Continue. I wish you all the best with your positive messaging. And again, promoters, people out there, I'm sure this man could definitely sell some tickets for your card. So check him out. But I want to thank you for being on the Cheap Heat Productions podcast today, sir.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you, and it's my pleasure. Anytime.
Well, fans, that's it for this edition. Make sure, if you haven't already and subs are going up, please subscribe to Cheap Heat Productions on YouTube. Check us out on the socials. And until next time, for the American Giant, I'm Jack Kilby. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for watching this video. Please give it a like if you enjoyed it. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Cheap Heat Productions. Don't forget to hit the notification button and you won't miss any of our upcoming interviews